How's it going, everyone? My name is Luxeley, and I decided to make a video to add my 2 cents in about the shutdown of Nostalrius. And the only reason I'm doing this, in spite of the fact there's at least another 5,000 videos that you could watch on this topic, is that the videos that I've watched, I'm not saying no one out there touched upon the underlying issue, but the ones that I watched, they didn't. And these are credible YouTubers that do a great job, but they're not really hitting the underlying issue. This is not about copyright infringement. This is not about the ongoing demand or the ongoing sense of urgency that people have to play on vanilla servers. There's something very underlying here, and I'm going to get to it in a few minutes. But before I do, I want to talk about my experience of World of Warcraft, because my experience lends to a certain perspective. And the same can be said about anyone else. I started playing World of Warcraft 1 month into Wrath of the Lich King. That is where I got my initial cherry high. That is where my roots are. That is where my heart goes out to the game, Wrath of the Lich King. The story will be very different from someone who started playing in vanilla, let alone someone who started playing during Warlords of Draenor, let alone the kid that just decides to start playing during Legion. Our heart has a funny way of going back to that cherry high feeling, to what we hold dear, to where our roots are. And I understand the need for people to want to go back and play Vanilla WoW, whether it's something they completely missed or it's something that they really loved back in the day. But personally for me, I had a minor taste of it. There were still remnants of Vanilla WoW in Wrath of the Lich King. Everything changed with Cataclysm, where they changed all of Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms. Some of the changes, I think, were pretty good. Some of them were pretty bad. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. Tell me a change that you thought was pretty good, a change that you thought was pretty bad, during the Great Cataclysm with Deathwing going psycho and burning everything. Leave it in the comments. I do respond to comments, incidentally. I strongly feel if you could watch the video this long, into 2 minutes into the video, I certainly can take 20 seconds and respond to your comments. So let me know something good, something bad that occurred with the Great Cataclysm. To get a little personal here, I am not a huge fan of vanilla. I kind of had a taste of it, like I said, with Wrath of the Lich King. Not the purest form of vanilla, but yeah, I have a little curiosity, but I don't think it's something that has legs. I don't think it's something that has a lot of staying power for me, because you're going to get to that point where you're going to exhaust the content, and then what? You're going to start calling for BC servers, and then what? You're going to start calling for Wrath of the Lich King servers, you see the point? And then you're going to start calling for servers, and then all of a sudden you're going to realize, oh shit, we just fucked up everything in vanilla. Can we play a vanilla server again, please? But people do want this, and I recognize that. Just because it's not for me doesn't mean it's not for the masses. Doesn't mean that there's a lot of people that are willing to pay money and invest their time in something like a vanilla server. To me, it's pretty evident that that's out there. And honestly, I was tempted to play on Nostalrius. I did not do it because 2 reasons. One, the servers are in Europe. Latency was a little concerned before I invested time into the game. And I don't think I would have had a latency problem going out there and leveling and killing 12 kobolds and turning into quests. I don't think that would have been an issue. I think it might have been an issue, though, in PvP. Most certainly in a battleground like AV, because there's really only 3 BGs. There's AV, there's AB, and Warsong Gulch. So I think it might have been an issue. So that was one reason I didn't do it. Another reason I didn't do it is I'm not a big raider. I tried it. It's not for me. I'm into PvP. But to the best of my knowledge, and I could be wrong about this, I'm going to need raid gear in order to be competitive in vanilla PvP. And that was something that I didn't find particularly appealing, and another reason why I didn't get involved with it. I did have plans to produce a video that was a review on Nostalrius, where I'd probably binge play the vanilla server for like 6 or 8 hours and put together a video on it. But obviously I can't necessarily do that. Now, other reasons I'm not particularly excited about vanilla servers is because I think a lot of it is nostalgia based. Nostalgia based in the sense that You played Vanilla WoW, it was a great experience for you, you want to relive it. Maybe you never played any semblance of Vanilla WoW, you started in Cataclysm or Mist of Pandaria, and you want a taste of it because you never had it. And then, of course, there's that third reason, which is there's something missing with retail WoW. And I'm going to get into more on that in a few minutes. The fact is, there are a lot of people that want to experience vanilla. Maybe not play it for months and months and months, but they want to have that experience. And there's a huge demand for it. And just because it's not a place that you would choose to live and hang your hat and call your home doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't have it. It's kind of like a vacation spot. It might be something that you might want to play instead of playing SWTOR, instead of playing Guild Wars 2, instead of playing WildStar. You just have that feeling, like, I don't want to play live in that, retail live WoW right now. I want to hanker around in Vanilla WoW for a little bit. Hey, I think Blizzard would be happier if you were playing Vanilla WoW than if you were playing WildStar, Guild Wars 2, or SWTOR. That's just my thoughts. What are your thoughts on that particular point? So in some ways, it might be a vacation spot. It might not be a place you would want to live, but it is a place that you would want to visit. And that's not such a bad thing. Now, I had a taste of Vanilla WoW in Wrath of the Lich King. Granted, it wasn't as huge of a taste as somebody who played Vanilla WoW. But one of the things that I do miss is that whole South Shore versus Tarn Mill. That fair fight that you could occasionally find, maybe half at a time find in PvP. Because you're around South Shore and you're questing and you find a Horde player who's the same level as you. And you can try to gank them, or you can engage in world PvP. That doesn't happen anymore. That just doesn't happen. It's usually a level 100 ganking a level 60 and then celebrating. Okay? That is just plain grieving. That is just plain stupidity. Yes, at one point I thought it was cool, but I currently don't. I want a little bit of a challenge, and I like the idea of fair PvP, but it doesn't exist. And you could turn around and say that Blizzard does things to try and re-engage it. They tried Asheran. That was their response to it, and that obviously didn't work too well. And they try other things, but, world PvP, it's not something that's dying. It's something that's dead. And I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but the three biggest hotbeds for world PvP were South Shore Tarn Mill area. That was 1. 2 was the Dark Portal. And 3 was Hellfire Peninsula. Those were 3 of the biggest hotbeds for world PvP, where things got initiated. Well, guess what? Blizzard, whether on purpose or accidentally, because the storyline does kind of fit in here, got rid of 2 of them. They got rid of South Shore, Tarn Mill, and they got rid of the Dark Portal. The first one went in Cataclysm, and the second one went in the most recent expansion, Warlords of Draenor. So your 2 biggest hotbeds are gone for world PvP. Is that intentional, or is that just an unfortunate casualty? I don't know the exact answer. Either could be true. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But it's that kind of thinking. It's those kind of changes that create this desire, that create this need for vanilla servers when you start changing things like that. Now, I'm not saying literally that that's the change that makes people crave vanilla servers, but it's that kind of change. It's the context, the ideology of making those changes and taking things out of the game, dumbing down the game, ability pruning, not having 4 different raids that you could tackle, only 2 raids at the end of an X-Pack. These are things that make people crave the past. These are things that make people want to go back and experience where they got that first cherry high, where they got that first heartbeat and affection for WoW. And Blizzard just doesn't address these things. And that's the underlying issue that nobody in about 5 or 6 videos that I watched even bothered to address. And that is, Blizzard doesn't listen to their customers. They occasionally do listen to customers, but they don't listen to the right people. They don't. They read the forums, they respond to the forums, but for all you know, the guy in the forum could be trolling, or the guy in the forum could not have actually been subscribed to the game in 3 or 4 fucking years. The fact is They listen to people, but they don't listen to the right people. Perfect example. Back in Wrath of the Lich King, when I started playing the game, the forums were peppered and clamored with people trumpeting, we want player housing, we want player housing. That's all they kept saying. So what does Blizzard do? 5 years later, they give them player housing. This is Blizzard being attuned to what the players want. They're just not listening properly. They're not listening to the right people. Let me give you a better example. Square Enix, the company that owns the rights of Final Fantasy and a lot of other games of that kind of nature, I believe Tomb Raider, if I'm not mistaken, they did a survey of everyone who ever played one of their games, bought one of their games, all the information they had. They did a survey and they asked people, what do you like, what don't you like? And people submitted their answers to the survey. And the reality is, when they came up with the latest installment of Final Fantasy, it was pretty darn good. It brought in a lot of new players, it re-energized old players, and I don't think a lot of people are complaining about that particular X-Pack to that particular franchise. Why? Because Square Enix invested some money in themselves and did this huge survey, which definitely paid them dividends. This is something that Blizzard has greater resources to do, more money to do, but simply chooses not to do. And the question is, why? Well, I have the answer. It is no coincidence that things started to change in World of Warcraft as soon as the big, dark, evil cunt known as Activision took over. When Activision bought out Blizzard and it was finalized, one of the first things that appeared out of sparkly noob tear dust was the Blizz Store and the Sparkly Pony. More things ended up going on sale at the Blizz Store, and that's okay. Hey, they want to make money, players want to have fun, but somewhere along the line, it became more important for Blizzard to do things based on what is profitable as opposed to what is fun. Nostalrius was doing things based on what was fun, based on what the players wanted. They weren't making a lot of money. They say they weren't making any money. I don't believe that, but they weren't making a lot of money. They were doing it for the love of the game, and Blizzard shut them down. They pulled the plug. Because for Blizzard, it's all about the money. And the reality is, Blizzard can't even fucking monetize World of Warcraft properly. Here's a few examples. One, garrisons. You hate them. I hate them. Yes, maybe they were interesting for about 10 minutes, but the fact of the matter is, instead of introducing a selfie cam in 6.1 or Twitter integration in 6.1, both of which you could easily take a screenshot and use Twitter without those stupid fucking features. The point is, Blizzard could have started to monetize the game. They could have introduced architecture of different races in your garrison. Have Draenei architecture in your garrison. Have undead architecture in your garrison. They could have set up a quest line to open it up to give to people, which would have given them incentive to do dailies or to delve out into world. Or they could have put it on sale at the Blizz Store and saved people a lot of time. Maybe you wouldn't have bought it. Maybe I wouldn't have bought it. But I guarantee you a lot of people would have bought it. That is what you call truly monetizing the game. They introduced all these great new character models. Why not introduce sub-races? You could have it be a quest line to open up for people to have access to, or you could have put it for sale at the Blizz Store. Maybe you don't buy a Mecha Gnome or a Brown Orc. Maybe I don't buy it, but I guarantee you someone would. You could have older transmog sets that are difficult to get from raids, because yeah, you could go in Molten Core and do it over and over again, but there's always that one piece that's going to elude you, not for a couple of weeks, but for a couple of months. Or you could have the tier 2 set that's out of the game completely, or older sets that are out of the game. You could bring them back, or you could just recolor existing sets and you could sell them at the Blizz Store. Hey, make fun of Donald Trump all you want about being a deal maker and producing the art of the deal, but a true deal, which is something I say as a salesman to all my customers, if the customer's happy and you as a salesman are happy and the company that you represent is happy, that's a deal. Everybody benefits. So if it goes on sale at the Blizz store and it gives people some joy to spend $10 to have Draenei architecture, why not do it? Or spend $10 to get a brown orc or a mecha gnome, why not do it? Everyone wins! I don't understand. Another great example. You can have a centralized garrison where you could send out your missions and you could have a phone app. I don't think this is too difficult to do. You have a phone app and people from their iPhone for $5 a month can access their garrisons and do their missions while they're waiting in line at the DMV on their lunch hour. They don't have to access the full game. I think it would have made garrisons better, and people would have certainly paid for that. You could do the same thing with pet battles. You could have it accessed from a browser. You could probably have it accessed from your iPhone. This is what you call monetization, and Blizzard can't even fucking do that right. But yet, all their decisions are based on money. All their decisions are based on resources of development time. And they can't even do it right. How many times have they used the excuse, oh, we don't have the proper resources, we don't have enough devs, etc., etc., etc. Meanwhile, they boast about having the largest dev staff ever in Blizzard. Makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. The fact that they can't do that right, that they're making decisions based on monetization and not based on fun like they used to, is reason this need for vanilla service exists. Yes, you could point to ability pruning. Yes, you could point to the dumbed down of the game. Yes, you can point to things becoming redundant with raiding very quickly or imbalance in PvP. But the bottom line is a lack of value. And Blizzard just doesn't get it. This is the underlying point that nobody dredged up. It's all about copyright issues and whether it's good or bad. It's all bullshit. What it comes down to is there's no value in the retail servers. There's no value in the live servers, which is why people get a hankering and a craving to go back to vanilla WoW when there was value. Listen, there are other underlying reasons about what's missing from WoW and what fuels this need. You could point at the ever-eroding community. And I'm going to give you a personal experience about that, because I've been doing twos on my Holy Paladin, which I'm completely new. I haven't played a Holy Paladin since Kata, okay? And I've never played in Arena. So I'm doing twos and I'm average at best, okay? I'm learning, I'm adjusting, but I'm not that great. So I'm doing twos. I had this 2200 rated Feral Druid that was doing twos with me. I think we went 2 and 2. And then in the third one, their healer died. I was low on health. The DK killed me. So it was the Feral Druid 1v1 against the Frost DK. The Feral Druid has 90% of his health left, and the Frost DK has less than 5%, 20k health. Take a guess who won the fight. The 2200 rated Feral Druid or the Scrub DK with 5% of his health? Of course the DK won. So then the Feral Druid decides as a parting gesture to say, I'm a fucking scrub and that I'm trash as a healer and good luck to me, and leaves the group and forgets it. This is so quintessential and so much the example of how this community has eroded. Because a true champion out there is about lifting up the team, pointing out someone's weaknesses, and improving them, not exploiting them. And I am not the only one that's kind of experienced this. I'm sure a lot of people out there have as well. And somewhere along the line, there's been that sense of entitlement. There's been that sense of, fuck you, I'm great, everyone else sucks. Well, guess what? People can improve at the game. And a true champion elevates the play of your team. He doesn't bring it down a level or two. And that is just one example. I'm sure you guys have example, but this community is rapidly eroding. And another problem of what might be missing from retail WoW, and this is kind of a good thing, I think the rating has gotten so good that everybody discounts everything else in the game because all they want to do is raid. They just want to get to level 100 and raid. They just want to raid with their friends. That's what they want to do. So leveling becomes a chore. It becomes a tedious chore. It becomes a necessity that they have to do, kind of like paying taxes. And they don't want to do it. They just want to raid. That's because the raiding might just be that good. It's not my thing, but I think that that is a very reasonable statement on my part. That the raiding is so good that everything else gets discounted. And that is not the case in WoW Vanilla. WoW Vanilla, the whole experience is the leveling. Yes, the rating is there, but it's mostly the leveling. And I think that that's what people miss. They miss that meaning to leveling. Another thing is World PvP. It's not something that's dying. I said it before, it's dead already. And you could actually have a better experience or a better overall view or perspective of World PvP by getting involved with the vanilla server. World PvP now is a level 100 ganking a level 60 and celebrating. Okay, that's not World PvP. That is grieving. The game has been dumbed down so much. I am an awful rogue. I am an even worse warrior. But now I can play them with some semblance of decency, some level of averageness. Why? Because they dumbed down the classes so much. It used to mean a lot when you played a warrior, even going back to Kata. It was not an easy class to play. Now, it's just a fucking joke. Same thing with a rogue. Rogues are still difficult, but they're not as difficult as they used to be. So every single class in the game has been dumbed down, and I think people want a little bit more of a challenge, and that is certainly missing. Things are really basic and dumbed down. You could even throw in the idea of ability pruning. I can understand the concept of ability pruning if your whole goal is to move WoW to a console. But they started this ability pruning concept back in even MOP. And the fact of the matter is, you're looking at a few years going by and they're no closer to getting to console. So I don't think that that's their objective. The bottom line is, if you don't use an ability, don't put it on your fucking bar. It's that simple. There are things I don't use as a PvPer that someone might have on their raid bar, or vice versa. Somebody who raids certainly doesn't need all the shit that's on there for PvP. Just don't put it on your bar. No one's saying you have to have 40 abilities on your bar, or learn how to use a macro, a modifier macro, so you could double up all your space. But no, Blizzard's answer is, let's just get rid of stuff. Let's get rid of Spectral Guys. Let's get rid of Phantasm. Let's get rid of Cascade. What else could we get rid of? Oh, let's get rid of Void Tendrils. We don't need that. I mean, that's just Shadow Priest. I could go off on any class about stuff that was pruned in WoD and stuff that will even be more pruned in Legion. They just changed the name. That's all. It's still more ability pruning. And I also think something that's missing from WoW is the whole world of World of Warcraft has become somewhat murky and convoluted because of the 10-year time span. I mean, if you take a look at the oldest part of WoW, which is Outland, and the newest part of WoW, which is Warlords of Draenor, it really is a night and day difference in the quality. The pixelation, the whole view, it's a big, big difference. And I think each new X-Pack kind of reveals the blemishes of previous X-Packs, including Vanilla. And that is something that sort of convoluted things, and things don't fit in as well as they used to. For example, this whole concept of heirloom gear. If you have heirloom gear, you might do like 6 or 10 quests in a given zone, and then you've pretty much outpaced the zone. So then you got to go to another zone and you only do like 10 or 12 quests. You're progressing a lot faster than the original content is intended for you to progress, and you kind of outgrow things really quick. That's a problem. Granted, you can't make it super, super easy to the point that heirlooms have no purpose, but you also have to have some kind of purpose for the guy who doesn't have heirlooms that just might want to experience the content. So I'm not saying that that's a horrible thing, not a big thing, but it's just an example of how things have become murky and convoluted. And the last thing I want to touch upon this particular subject is there's been some talk that Nostalrius was going to shut down anyway. There was a note that they were going to shut down because of funding. They couldn't continue to fund it, yada, yada, yada. That may or may not be true. I see some contradictions in that. I see a contradiction in the sense that they're growing so well that they wouldn't figure out a way to get funding to continue. Another thing is, oh, well, we're going to shut down, but we're also going to start up a Burning Crusade server too. So we're going to shut down, but we're going to start up a Burning Crusade server. Makes no sense. Maybe they kind of got the information that they were going to get copyright slammed and they were going to go down before this all became public, and maybe this was kind of a preemptive strike in a way. That kind of makes sense to me, but I don't think that they were shutting down, honestly. What are your thoughts? Do you think they were actually going to shut down in spite of what they said? Now, this whole legality issue is definitely copyright infringement. These are Blizzard's intellectual properties. Yeah, I mean, come on, let's be real. Okay, Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, same exact thing. It's a copy and paste of Vanilla WoW. This is the content of World of Warcraft. You are infringing the content. That is a reality. Is it direct competition with WoW? Not exactly. Let me give you an example. Let's say I had some money and I wanted to produce Star Trek. I wanted to produce the old original series for myself. Copyright infringement. All I got to do is use the Enterprise, use the whole Star Trek name, the red shirts, the gold shirts, the blue shirts. Copyright infringement, same exact thing. So while the software might not be a copyright infringement because they grew the code themselves and sourced it out themselves, the actual end product is a copyright infringement. And the question is, why did Blizzard choose to shut down Nostalrius? Because there's still other vanilla servers out there. There are other legacy servers, Kata servers, Wrath of the Lich King servers, etc., that are out there. Why did they choose to shut this one down? Well, the answer is pretty simple. They had 800,000 accounts. They had 150,000 active accounts. They were growing rapidly. There were streamers, well-known streamers like Soda and Sea-Doo, who were streaming Vanilla WoW. Blizzard looks at this and says, hey, even if we get 10% of those 150,000 active subscribers or patrons to the game, do the math. That's 15,000 times $15 per month. You're looking at roughly $200,000 of added income per month. And it's not unreasonable to say 10% of those people are going to go back to live WoW. That's maybe not a lot of money to Blizzard, but it does make a difference, especially if they're going to be buying microtransactions and they're going to be buying Legion. It makes a difference. Eliminate the competition, because this server was growing quick, and a big reason for that was because Sodapoppin and Sea-Doo were streaming it. And Blizzard takes a look at these guys and says, how come you're not streaming live WoW? Let's shut you down and have you promote our game, our live retail game. And Blizzard is truly the dark evil empire now in this case. There is a lot of bitterness towards Blizzard, and I'm even contemplating of not buying Legion and just pulling the plug on my WoW content, because the reality is WoW, without being in the Legion Alpha or Beta, is fucking dead right now on YouTube. And I don't want to abandon my subscribers in that regard, but I am tired of promoting Blizzard's game and not getting any love in return. And yet they'll give alpha access and beta access to guys that don't even have half the level of subs that I have, that haven't even made 1/10 of the videos that I have on World of Warcraft, that haven't even been subscribed as long as I have. The guys that have been 10 times more critical about WoW than I ever have been. Okay? And it does. It creates a lot of salt. You don't like salt? Hey, that's who I am. It creates salt. I'm sorry. But the biggest underlying reason why I have a lot of animosity towards Blizzard, and this is very reflective of this whole vanilla server thing, and that is, back in Wrath of the Lich King, Blizzard was knocking on the door of 13 million subs. They currently have 5.5 million, and I guarantee that number is lower because they don't want to report sub numbers anymore. The problem with this is very simple. I find myself consistently looking for a guild so I can have people that I can do RBGs with, that I could have people that I can arena with, and it's gotten to the point that I just give up, because as soon as I find someone, they quit the game. And it's happened not a couple of times, try 7 times. And it just becomes very, very aggravating and frustrating to constantly have to go out there and prove yourself to new people in order to be in a competitive environment. And that is the reason that I'm infuriated with Blizzard, because the game is eroding and they're not addressing the key issues with the game. And it affects me, and I'm sure it affects a lot of other people in different ways. Most certainly it affects people with raiding. My friends don't raid, therefore I'm not raiding anymore. And this is just an ongoing thing. It doesn't go away. And it becomes incredibly aggravating and frustrating, especially when you spent a lot of money back in Wrath of the Lich King and even Kata to server hop and try to find yourself a PvP guild. And I just have a lot of animosity towards Blizzard for that. You know, it's one thing to pay money to try to find something, and it's another thing to consistently do it and not find it. And it leads me with that idea that Blizzard doesn't want their players to find it because they just want the money. That's what it's all about with Blizzard. Nostalrius was growing nicely. They were planning on doing BC. Blizzard had to pull the plug. 2 big streamers were promoting the game. Blizzard had to pull the plug. For Blizzard, it's not about what's fun anymore. It's about show me the money. Here's the bottom line. There is a demand for vanilla servers. There is a desire for the vanilla servers. And the underlying reason is a lack of value in WoW retail and a lack of fun in WoW retail. Somewhere along the line, and I said earlier in the video precisely where, Blizzard decided to start making decisions based on what's profitable and make a lot less decisions about new features and X-Packs and new things into the game. Said, no, we're not basing it on fun. We're basing it on money. What is the easiest to produce? What costs the least amount of resources to produce? And you see this in the fact that there's less raids. You see this in the fact that there's less leveling zones. You see this in many different ways, and it's just all very evident in the game that Blizzard takes the easy way out. It's a lazy way. It's a retarded way in the long run, but this is what they choose to do. And there are solutions to this whole demand for vanilla WoW. Blizzard will throw out the excuse, well, you know, we don't have the code. We don't want to maintain the servers. You don't understand. We don't have the code. Bullshit. It's bullshit. If some layman can write up the code and create Nostalrius without bugs and have it run relatively smooth, I'm sure Blizzard could do the same thing with their own game. So that's bullshit. The bottom line is they don't want to do it because they don't see it as having longevity and being profitable in the long term, and they don't want to do it because they don't want to further polarize and divide the community. Because the reality is, as soon as vanilla WoW starts to get a bit redundant and starts to get repetitive, then there's going to be, hey, can you bring up BC servers? Hey, can we have Wrath of the Lich King servers? And half the community is going to want BC, and the other half's going to want Wrath of the Lich King, and then the other half's going to want maybe some expansion in Azeroth. And hey, it does become a bit silly. But there is a demand for this. There is a passion for this. So you could do a few things. You could turn around and bite the bullet and have your own legacy WoW servers. It's not such a bad thing. And of course, Blizzard has adamantly said, no, we won't do it. But they also adamantly said, no, we won't have any more hero classes. And then all of a sudden in Legion, they say, okay, here's the new hero class, the Demon Hunter. They also said they will not have player housing ever. And in WoD, they have garrisons, which essentially is player housing with a different name. So don't ever listen when Blizzard says they will never do something, because there is a possibility they will, especially if it's profitable. They will. But the way I see it, you have one of 2 possible solutions. The first one, Blizzard does this on their own, and they create their own vanilla servers, and they charge $5 or $10 a month for people to access it. And there are some benefits to this. One, it'll get people involved in the purity of the game. And maybe when the game starts to get stale and redundant, for another small fee, you can step up and you could have a free level 60, and as long as you buy the BC through other stuff, and you could play on the retail servers, you could play on the live servers. It might happen. It makes sense to me. It's a possibility. Another possibility is that it's better that people play vanilla WoW and Blizzard makes some money off it than they get bored with retail and they play SWTOR, or they play WildStar, or they play Guild Wars 2, or they play Black Desert. Makes a lot of sense to me. Why not let them play Vanilla WoW for $10 a month? Better than playing other games, keeps them in the fold. That's the whole reason why you have this BattleNet thing. That's the whole reason why you have access to Hearthstone and Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm, all in the auspices of one browser. It makes sense to me. Don't have them leave that little box. But no, that makes sense. And I'm not saying this is a brilliant idea, but this is how good ideas are born. I start throwing some stuff out there, and then somebody else starts throwing some stuff out there, and next thing you know, you have a birth of a reasonable good idea. And Blizzard doesn't even start off with bad ideas. They just have no idea, no clue. And another potential solution is to license this out. They don't have to worry about maintaining servers. They don't have to worry about polarized or divided community. Or they could turn around and say, hey, for a fee, you could start up and have the licensing to do vanilla servers. And you got to pay us a monthly fee in order to maintain it, or we're going to shut you down. Simple enough. Blizzard just sits in and reeks in the money and does nothing. They do nothing. They don't even reach for the remote to change the channel. They do absolutely nothing and get the benefit of their intellectual property and the licensing. It's that simple. But no, they don't look at it as a solution. That's a very simple solution from a very old classic movie, and I'm going to leave you with this clip, Goodfellas. The character, Jimmy Conway, real-life character named Jimmy Burke, or Robert De Niro, is essentially a gangster. And he steals shit, and he sells it for 100% profit. And when he gets shaken down by the cops, watch what he does. He makes him a partner. That's what Blizzard needs to do. Nostalrius has reached out to Blizzard and essentially tried to do this in a petition to Mike Morhaime, or whatever the douchebag's name is over at Blizzard. And they're pleading to Blizzard, let us run it, blah, 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 blah. Hey, Blizzard wants money. That's all it comes down to. And it's fair for Blizzard to get money for people to legally license and use this. But sending Mike Morhaime a letter, a petition, even if it's got 30,000 signatures like it currently has after only being around for 2 days, the reality is you might as well just take that petition while you're driving in a highway and throw it out the window. Because the way Blizzard treats their game and the way they've gone from knocking on the door to 13 million subs to 5 million subs is indicative of how they're treating this, which is absolutely retarded and just plain dumb. They can make them a partner just like De Niro does. Watch the clip. Thanks for watching me. Appreciate it.
Henry, come here. Say hello to Tom.
Hey. How you doing, Andrew?
We're just gonna be working together. Okay?
Hi. Sounds good.
Okay. Hey, Jimmy! You got anything good?
And when the cops, they assigned a whole army to stop Jimmy, what did he do?
How you doing, Joe?
He made them partners.
Okay. Jimmy, I'd complain, but who'd listen?